Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of VYPE Locker Talk. I'm Todd James, and today joining us is Magnolia West Defensive Coordinator Joaquin Garcia. Coach, thanks for joining us. You just joined the staff at Magnolia West, and you're going to be working with second-year head coach Blake Joseph. Talk a little bit about your new position.
It's exciting. It's certainly so much different than, years in the past. I was scheduled to start, the whole class schedule and football periods the Monday after spring break. So I've had a chance to meet all the coaches and things like that. So, and we're doing everything virtually and for the most part and seeing those guys. But it's exciting. I'm glad to be a part of it. We've got some good things going on. They were young last year. They've got some guys coming back, but certainly we've got to create depth and focus and work with the younger guys also.
Now, you are in a very unique situation in that you won a state title 3 times, but once as a player at Katy back in 1997, and then you came back after you graduated and you won 2 state titles as a coach, I believe in 2007 and 2008. Talk a little bit about what it's like to win a state title. What are the ingredients to win a state title? Yes, you have to have good players. Yes, you have to have good coaches, but you also have to have a great culture. But talk a little bit about what a team needs, and you've seen it 3 times, what a team needs to win a state title.
Yeah, right. There's so many different factors and that go into it. And as far as the football part of it, the formula for winning on the field, the building players, the development. But I think over the 17 years I've been coaching and all that, I think the off season and building leaders and then developing is the bulk of your program, the 80% of your program. I think that is probably number one. Also, I know every team that doesn't have the capability of recruiting, but so every high school team, the art of how they personnel their team and how they prioritize different positions, because it's not like we can go out and whatever your budget is, go find those players. So the off season, having a custom made off season for your different, whether it's a quarterback, whether it's a oversized offensive lineman, whether it's your 4 wide receivers, however that is to develop your and custom made off season, but then also being able to most efficiently use the personnel that you've been given and then develop them to where you can play complementary football with those guys and understand how just explosives, which explosives is special teams, is turnovers, is all that is statistically builds wins and losses. And I think places like Katy, they just naturally do it. They don't you don't go in there and they don't tell you about the statistics of why they do it. But, if you're a +2 in the explosives, you're probably going to win 75 to 85% of your games. But, that's turnovers probably constitutes more than just one explosive. The kicking game is built into that, obviously, offense, defense, winning in the red zone. So all those are built into those championship programs. But I think off season, all that's great, but if you don't have players that are developed in some type of depth, you can't even focus on that. So I think step one is that off season, and then a very close second is how you personnel, because you don't have unlimited personnel, unlimited players.
Yeah, thank you. And not only are you the defensive coordinator, but you're also going to be in charge of special teams as well. And we're going to get to special teams in just a second. But Another dynamic that you bring to Magnolia West is you also have a very diverse coaching experience. You've coached at the University of Houston under Tom Herman for 4 years. You coached at Prairie View A&M for a couple of seasons, I believe. So you bring this college experience with you as well to Magnolia West. What did you learn at the college level that you're able now to bring to the high school level and kind of teach these high school kids, what it takes to play at the next level?
Those college kids, majority of them can learn so much faster, and you can install so much more. And you've had chances to work with guys that have been all over the country, been hired, been fired, and they've learned a lot. Offensively, defensively, special teams wise, Coach Levine, he coached in the NFL, and they've spent so many hours working with so many different types of adjustments, which is all great. One, for the high school kids, you can teach them, what the recruiters are looking for, and you can be very blunt with them. You have to have some great tape, and as far as them achieving their goals of trying to play on the next level, and you can tell them about uh, the type of player that they're looking for, the size, the speed, the measurables. And if you're not going to have that, what can you do? So one is recruiting. Um, Two, and I think even more importantly, is all these schemes that we talk about. We're meeting with the high school coaches and our staffs. We can discuss all the schemes, but even more importantly, we need to discuss how we're going to teach it and how we're going to implement it, and break that down as opposed to just saying, all right, we're going to do this and this and this. Well, we're going to spend just as much time on how we're going to do that with the type of player that we have, which I think the best teams out there, they do that. They spend just as much time, and nobody talks about that. Is okay. How are you get up? Show me how you're going to teach this to this inside linebacker or to this whatever position it is. I think doing that is going to be huge for the um, the high school players, and just being able to do that. Not necessarily all the different kickoff returns that we put in for a yearly plan or whatever, a weekly plan, or just one game, uh, but exactly how we're going to teach it and be able to teach these kids statistics of why we're going to do it this way, not just emotions and philosophy, but this is how it breaks down, and this is how to create a plan, and this is how the guys that are coaching on the other side of the country, that are coaching in a totally different circumstances, this is how you can have some type of transferable value and skill, as opposed to just being saying, all right, we're from a great uh, city and a great state of football, and thinking that we're all that, but being able to transfer and relate to guys that are all over the country.
So, the last couple of years, you were able to work with Cedric Hardiman, who was a new coach. He came over to Conroe, built a new culture there. He was a new head coach. He's in his third year now. You were part of his staff for 2 years. Now you're part of this new staff, or fairly new staff, with Blake Joseph, who's entering his second year at Magnolia West. So now you're going to be the defensive coordinator at yet another school that you're going to build the program from, for the most part from the ground up, or at least under a new coach. What's your philosophy now at Magnolia West? What are you wanting to accomplish and build as a defensive coordinator with the Mustangs?
Well, Blake, he's going to be running the offense. He's going to, allow me to run the defense, and then have a major hand in developing the special teams. And we've talked about that a lot in our meetings. Again, statistically, we're going to talk about the formula for winning and explosives and winning the kicking game, the red zone, third down, playing great defense, and the offense has a huge part of that as far as defense for the team. They've done a great. One thing I am going to say is those guys that have been at Magnolia West. Blake was the offense. Coach Joseph was offensive coordinator there before he became the head coach. They've done a great job of creating a culture there. And so it is his second year, but he's also been there with other guys. And then, the two other previous head coaches that did a good job of really building it up. So, you know, um, I told them I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna try to make every part of the defense, every part of the special teams, and then we just hired two more defensive coaches that we are very impressed by, and we feel very lucky to get them. We went through a ton of guys, and we're very, very excited about the knowledge and experience that they bring in. And and we talked to, and we're going to create a culture of as far as coaches go, as far as building depth. That is, they at the end of the day, it's about relationships. But what does that mean statistically? How are your sub varsity guys? How are your freshman guys? How are you building depth? And that is, that's the our culture as far as what I'm going to bring to the table is about growth, carryover, and constantly building, and then just adding value to all the coaches, all the players, the overall community, and just building on top of that.
We're speaking with Joaquin Garcia, the new defensive coordinator of Magnolia West. All right, Coach. So now we talked about your defensive strategy. You're also going to be working with special teams as well. Special teams so important at the high school level. If you have a good kicker who can kick off and can, touchbacks, and if he can kick a field goal from 45, 50 yards, and if you have a punter who can switch the field, flip the field, so to speak, that's a very important part of the game at the high school level. All levels, but especially at the high school level. So give me your thought now on what you're going to bring from the special teams point of view now at Magnolia West.
Well, special teams, I think you start with the punt team, and you've got to be able to protect all, and you've got to create a culture on your staff and on your team that understands that the punt team is just as important of a play as any other play out there or more. And so you start with that, and then the coverage game, and then you have to develop, like we talked about, personnel and developing kickers and being able to keep the ball on their side of the field. And that's very important. Like we said earlier, 75 to 85% of games are won by +2 explosives. Not to mention turnovers, which are even more important of a statistic when it comes to the formula of winning football games. Uh, so the special teams is, I guess, under that umbrella of turnovers and creating turnovers and explosives, uh, and then all that goes into that. So it's important that the players understand that, and that special teams is the kicking game, but it's an extension of offense and defense. It's all built in together, and so once we develop our kickers and then make sure that we can field the ball and understand the importance of it, and understand that and our returners understand the importance of fielding it and taking care of the ball, then it doesn't become a kicking game or special teams. It becomes, what we do, offense, defense, and then from there we can eventually build some explosives off of it.
Yes, very good. Amen, amen. Now, you've been mentioning this term explosives. Explain to our audience what are explosives in the football game.
Really, anything over 20 yards. So anything that it could potentially contribute to flipping the field. So if offensively I run a reverse, or I throw the 5-yard hitch and I go for 15 yards from my own 30 or from my own 25, and now the ball's on the 45-yard line. Well, now I go to, let's say, the drive progresses and I go to punt. Well, now that, and I punt it to the 15-yard line. or to the 20-yard line, every 10 yards, 15 yards, statistically, the percentage chance that that other team has of scoring goes goes down dramatically. So, and that's one part of it. You know, scoring in the red zone and defending in the red zone um, are huge trump cards for that, because you basically negate all of those explosives when you defend the red zone, or or once you capitalize and score in the red zone. So that's what the explosives are. Just anything really over 20 yards, because then that leads to flipping the field, meaning the other team has a huge long field, or whatever, a long field that they have to work for to capitalize. So yeah.
So, Coach, I got to ask you about this new district that you're going to. You came from Conroe, who is in that great district of 15-6A last year with the Woodlands. You had Klein Collins, you had Klein Oak, you had Klein Kane, you had Klein, all those great Klein schools. You had College Park, up and coming team. You had Oak Ridge with that great coach Mark Schmid. Now you're moving down the street on 105. You're taking a left. Now you're up at Magnolia West. Now you're going to be in District 8-5A Division 1. Now you have Lufkin to deal with. You have College Station to deal with. You have Porter, you have New Caney. Who else do you have? You have Magnolia you're going to have to deal with. So, as a coach, are you looking forward to that, or are you just not going to be sleeping once late August comes this fall?
Yeah, no, those years at Conroe, we had the district was those 2 years. It was one way, and then it was kind of two different districts, or 2 different years. The 2 years I was there, just the teams and the personnel, and it's about matchups. So here it'll be similar. I mean, a bunch of tough teams, good tradition. Obviously in Lufkin, and College Station's won a state championship, and they're extremely well coached. And Lufkin won the district championship last year. Magnolia's, they're big. They got a bunch of tough kids. I know New Caney just got a new head coach, and they had some good quarterbacks and things like that. So it's going to be exciting. I'm glad that we get to once we get back to it and get in the summers, I feel like we have a good plan to build this, and to start creating some depth as soon as possible, to where we get out there, and we have some tools to work with. And so I know those guys, Coach Joseph and the rest of the staff, they've been there for 4 or 5 years, so they've been at it, and creating their culture and their off season, and getting the kids after school, and all the extra sports, other sports, and then getting everybody to all the buy-in. So.
Well, we have some exciting times now at Magnolia West. New defensive coordinator, Joaquin Garcia. Thank you very much for joining us today, Coach. Any final thoughts now as you're going to be moving into the fall? Just a couple months away. We're in a quarantine period right now, but hopefully that's going to be changing soon. But what can you maybe tell the fans and maybe the incoming players, what can they expect this year from the defensive standpoint?
No, we're just ready to get back at it. We're ready for the green light, and we've had a chance to meet a lot of the kids, and we just want to get back outside and get back in the weight room, on the field, and get this thing going. So we just hope everybody's safe and healthy, and we're just ready to go.
Coach, thanks for joining us today on the VYPE Locker Talk Quarantine Edition. I'm Todd James, and we've been speaking with Joaquin Garcia. Thanks, Coach, once again, and best of luck to you and the Magnolia West Mustangs coming up in 2020.
Thank you.